general in this city. Whatever developers want, developers get. This community of the east side, this community of San Antonio, our community has helped to save, preserve this bridge. When the city council of that time, when the city staff of that time was not interested. It's typical, they don't like to save historic buildings anywhere, especially if they're African American and Latino and working class people of all colors. They don't want to save any of our neighborhoods. Now that we're in the inner city, that the new folks moving in from out of town or moving in from the suburbs are interested in our inner city beautiful neighborhoods, which we always knew were beautiful. Now, this land is precious. When they don't want us here because we're the bad ones. They want the wealthier ones here. And again, we're going to talk a little bit more. We've got speakers like Nettie who will tell us a little bit more about the history, and she was around way back. And we're going to hear speakers who are the younger folks who weren't around as way back because they weren't born. Or they were in elementary or junior high school. But last Friday, the city did us bad. We're very angry. You're very angry, yes. And we just couldn't wait longer. We just want to hold the city council who has been negligent, who has just said, I can't do nothing. It's up to the District 2 guy. That guy has a conflict of interest. He was the lawyer representing Eugene Seymour when we went to court.
That's right.
So the city council has to do something. Last year when when Nuremberg was running for mayor, we had a mayoral forum at the Esperanza. All the candidates, there's one here, Mr. Lucky. And we said, what will you do? Will you help us save this bridge? And they had to put up a green card or a red card. Mr. Nuremberg put up a green card. He said he was going to help us save that land below the bridge to make it a community park. And he has reneged on that promise. And he's absent. He's an absent mayor when it comes to this issue. He's just hiding behind his other chiefs of staff. Trey Jacobson has a conflict of interest because Trey Jacobson was the lobbyist that made this deal take place on behalf of Eugene Seymour. And now Trey is telling the mayor, don't do anything about it. And he's telling Scully what to do. All of these backroom sweetheart deals have got to stop. It's here, it starts here with Hay Street Bridge land, but it continues throughout the city because all of us are feeling it all over this city. So, because I got to talk because you weren't ready. But now,
good for you.
Let us hear from the Reina del East Side, Miss Nettie Hinton.
How y'all doing? I hope you're mad. I hope you want to take action. Now, I'm 79 years old. As of January 12th, I'm a Capricorn, and I don't mess around. I was born on the corner of Olive and Center Street. I am from this community. I am of this community. I graduated from St. Peter Claver Academy, right on the corner of Live Oak and Center Street, and the nuns just celebrated their 125th anniversary of beginning a school for black children of emancipated slaves so they could have a superior education. Yes, and I'm a product of the Sister of the Holy Spirit of Mary. I'm channeling Reverend Mother Melda, and she was one bad broad. I am, proudly to say, the first African American from San Antonio, Texas, to earn an undergraduate degree from the University of Texas in Austin, January of 1960. I taught school here for 3 years at the segregated Abraham Grant Elementary School on the west side, 5th grade, and then I went to Washington, D.C. And I marched with Martin Luther King, and I was on the mall in '63 when he gave his I Had a Dream speech. I have been in the fight a very long time. I tell people that when Dr. Walton came around the corner to our house on the corner of Olive and Center Street to birth me, he got my job description from God, and it said she's going to be a hellraiser on earth so she could deserve heaven in the eternal life. Now, this is what we need to do, San Antonio. This land here, I sat in Berkeley Dawson's office with a gentleman who just passed away a few weeks ago, and another member of the Conservation Society, and we convinced the Dawsons to donate this land to the city of San Antonio, so that once we got the bridge restored and it became a part of the Howard Peak hike and bike trail connecting the museum reach of the San Antonio River through Dignity, across the bridge and over to the Salado Creek, that we would be able to have bathrooms, water, a palapa for quinceañeras, a place for the bouncy things, for the kinds of birthday celebrations that we have at Breckenridge Park, and at the very end, a skate park, so that our youngsters will not be endangered when they're skateboarding. That was our plan. Now, the city did not help us get the federal money to restore this bridge. Only when we, the Hay Street Bridge Restoration Group, were beginning to be successful and they realized we were going to get the $2.9 million to restore the bridge, did they decide, oh, we'll join with you, because the feds say 80% is our money, 20% is somebody else's. So they did not want to be embarrassed by having people know they did not contribute. But what they did was, they forced us to sign a memorandum of understanding that said, you Hay Street Bridge people are really going to be the people responsible for the 20%. We're just going to get the glory. But they said, we said, that's okay. Mr. Dawson said, name the park after the family. We said, fine. The railroad gave us the bridge. Conservation Society gave us $50,000. The civil engineering and structural engineering community gave us money. Individual donors gave money. And we made it. The first thing we knew, Pat DiGiovanni, who was the deputy city manager at the time, Mr. Unethical, who has since had to resign from that job, and then had to just resign a few minutes ago from Centro San Antonio because of ethics and fraud, started working the deal with the guy who wanted to build his brewery right on this land. Not only did they take steps to give them the land and give it, okay, we'll give it to you for $295,000. And then we're going to give you incentive of $295,000 to do landscaping. So it was a wash. It was nothing. But they also gave me a license to put chairs, tables, umbrellas, and serve food and beer beverages on this bridge. Federal government wrote the city of San Antonio a letter and said, no, you won't commercialize this bridge in any form or fashion, but if you do, you're going to have to give us our $2.9 million back. Well, we were tied up in litigation. We sued the city. We won the jury trial. The city of San Antonio went to the judge, asked him to set aside the jury's decision. The judge said no. So then Cheryl Scully and the city then went to the next higher level of legal things in courts, and they decided we were just a group of taxpaying citizens. We didn't have any status to be suing the sovereign city of San Antonio. So they ruled in favor of the city of San Antonio, and then they started deeding the land to Eugene Seymour, and he's deeding the land to a guy who wants to build, first they said affordable housing. No. Now it's market rate housing, which is the same way that you would have on Broadway. And so we're not talking about something that people from our community would be able to afford, but also building right up on the bridge. So the only people who would have the value of the historic bridge, because we got it declared historic, would be the people living in these high-priced apartments. The community Anybody in the city for Tricentennial who wants to come and appreciate fireworks or whatever would not be able to do it except on the bridge. They would not be able to be out here and be able to see it from their front porches or any place else. Now, Historic Design and Review, we have been successful in each time that these developers who brought this case to HDRC. And with this last loss for them, the city manager decided they're just an advisory group. I don't have to pay attention to them. I've got the power to do whatever I want in San Antonio because the city charter gives the city manager the power. The mayor and city council pretty have bully pulpits, but that's about all. So I'm going to take this away from HDRC and I'm going to give it to the developers, and I'll give them some stipulations. But the stipulations are such, they can be easily done. They're not going to have underground parking. They're not going to have buildings that are only 1 story tall, so that anybody who's standing out there on Lamar Street or over here in their homes will be able to see the value of the bridge in all of its historical magnificence. The city is, at its core, at the moment, ethically challenged. Now, I know about that kind of thing because you're looking at me and I'm black. I'm 79 years old. I drank in the water fountain at Chris's and said, "Color."
You go, girl.
I sat in the back of the bus.
Yes, ma'am.
I couldn't go to the restaurants. I had to step in off the street downtown, the sidewalk downtown, if somebody that didn't look like me was coming along so they could have primary opportunity to walk on that street. I know about that, which is why I fought so hard for civil rights in Washington, D.C., and I will continue to do so now, and I will fight now for righteousness, because it is righteous that this land is made into a park the way that the Dawson said. All you have to do for this $300,000 is name it after my family. Imagine someone being that kind and generous to the east side of San Antonio, and the city of San Antonio wants to take that away, while at the same time being the 7th largest city in this country, trying to present it as a place of cultural diversity, fairness, caring about its people, when what they're doing is colluding with people with money. You saw the, I read the line on our radio yesterday morning, every Sunday morning, and the business section was a long story about developers in San Antonio and the kinds of incentives that they get in order to develop property. Do you know your school taxes continue to go up and up and up and up because they don't even let developers pay school taxes for multiple years? And I'm not talking about 1 or 2. I'm talking about 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, depending upon how important the guy is who is negotiating this for you. We are in the hands of unscrupulous people in San Antonio. We have got to take our city back and make sure that they do the right thing for the right thing for the right people. And those people are us, not the affluent.
So now help me welcome Darryl Steadman, and he'll tell you about his story and his father's story.
Yes, ma'am.
I'm not real important, but the person that I represent is. My father, H. Douglas Steadman, saved this bridge.
Yes, sir.
He passed away on February 12th of this year, and I buried him on March 7th. The night before he passed away, he made me promise that I'd carry on the fight. His last words to me were about the bridge, and if Express News is here, please get the quote right this time. Those crooks of the city stole the land from the people. Not sold it, stole it. They didn't even have the common decency to make a couple of bucks off it. They gave it down Low Brewery, who then in his turn has given it to the bridge complex so he can make a little more money. No, this land was deeded by the Dawsons and Budco to the city people of San Antonio to be a park. just like Union Pacific deeded these bridges to be an access from downtown to the east side for the people of San Antonio. Mayor Nuremberg, if you're listening, you need to do what you said you'd do. Make San Antonio the city the people deserve. San Antonio deserves this bridge. They deserve the park, because guess what? You don't have $2.9 million to come up with. My dad raised that 2.9 with a handshake with Honorable Jeff Wentworth. Between two Texans, that $2.9 million came, and yes, San Antonio couldn't come up with the 20%. You know who came up with the 20%? The people of San Antonio. The people, not the city. The city has no right to this land. And while Nettie Hinton was kind of dancing around it, I'll say it. It's corrupt backroom deals that's given this land away. This bridge was a labor of love for my father. And as you can see, it's beautiful. He also did the Alamo Dome. Does the city want to give away the land around the Alamo Dome for private enterprise? No. I can look at the city line here and see all the buildings my father was part of. And those were commercial businesses. This was a labor of love. He wanted this bridge to be here for the people of San Antonio, for that gateway from downtown to the east side. And when it was done, everybody was proud of the bridge. The city was great. The city council wanted to take credit for it happening when they had nothing to do with it. And yet, here they are abandoning it to give it away for a bridge. Do you see any 5-story buildings? The Historic Review Committee canceled it at 4 stories. They came back with 5 stories, and the city manager, Scully, goes roundabout and approves it on a backroom deal. I don't know what else to call it except corrupt. So please, if you have any sense of power, call your councilman, call the mayor's office. Please try to kill this deal so it can become a park just like it was always intended to. My father worked on this deal for over 2 decades. The developer was whining at the historical meeting because he'd worked on it for 3 months. My dad was working on this bridge over 25 years to make it happen, not for himself, but for the people of San Antonio.
Yes.
Go, Steadman!
Yes, sir.
Yeah, we like Doug Steadman.
Rest in peace.
And again, I mentioned this before. I ran into a letter to the editor that Doug Steadman wrote in 1967, challenging the city council in 67 to fix up the bridge before that hemisphere was coming to town. That's
Wow.
50 years ago, 51 years ago,
Oh
right?
my.
So now we're celebrating hemisphere. So it was 20 years, but it was another 30 years before that. Help me welcome Marlon Davis, who's an Eastside resident and an amazing organizer.
Hello, thank you all for coming out. I have some very tough acts to follow here today. Can everybody hear me? Is this good? Thank you all for coming out. I was just saying I had some very tough acts to follow here. It looks like the sun is beginning to go down, so if you have a light out, I personally will be using my cell phone. If you would all like to join me in that. Cheryl Scully, Drew Shaw, and Mitch Meyer. When you hear about the story, they frame our protest in terms of the development, as if our anger only began with this project. But this is a lie of omission. The heart of our anger lies in the breach of contracts, which each of them is fully aware of. In 2012, the council privately approved a sweetheart deal to befriend a former Mayor Hardberger, Eugene Seymour. We filed a case, and in 2014, a jury found our 2002 agreement with the city had suffered a breach of contract. We had been betrayed. And in accordance with the law, we filed a motion of contempt, a motion against the city that to this day is pending a review with the Texas Supreme Court. At each step of the way, we have followed the rules. We have engaged in the civil process. We have mobilized our communities, and developers have only invested money. We have invested our very lives. So why are we being painted as the problem? How is Meyer exhausted when he has won the special and particularly rare approval of City Manager Scully? It only takes one glance at Alamo beer to know that someone is drunk on power. But just as the Hay Street Bridge divides the land, here we draw a line in the sand. Our communities and our lives are no longer for sale.
Go around.
Listen, if you want to keep this a public park.
Except we got some company here.
They're with us.
Thank you. Thank you. That's what this is supposed to be for.
Yeah.
Trying to keep this bridge public.
Yup, you scum, fuck off!
What? He ain't with us. His vocabulary is limited.
But good news. Just as we gathered here today with these small lights to guide us, we can take these lights back to our respective communities. What starts as a spark can grow into a wildfire. Tonight, our collective light is symbolic of the city burning its bridge with its community. But tomorrow, we stop burning and we build.
Yes.
We build bridges to Soapworks, to Town Center, to Mission Reach, to Essex. If the city has chosen to prioritize private interest, then we will support public interest publicly. So we say, private hands off public lands.
Amen.
We say, cuenta para la gente.
Amen.
And we demand to meet with Mayor Nuremberg, City Council, and former Mayor Harburger, and demand the justice that this community is deserved.
Amen.
Yes, At this time, we would like to open the floor to any sort of concerned citizen, anyone who has an opinion to voice, anyone who would like to lend their voices to this program and voice your opinion, voice your standing. We also have candles available. We also have candles available if you have not brought one or if your cell phone does not have a flashlight.
Alex, do you want to say something? And Nadia, do you want to say something?
Well, they say this is a great big city, but at this moment it seems to be a city without a heart. And you know, when this project first came to being, I was on the city council. I was a city councilman for this district, and I was originally not in favor of it. As a matter of fact, I suggested that the whole thing be torn down. And a guy by the name of Charles Middleton came to me and he said, hey, you know what, Salas, we can make a bridge that goes over the railroad tracks, because the railroad tracks has always been a symbol of segregation. People of color live on the other side of the railroad tracks. And we can make a bridge, and people who are of different social economic status, which makes it a bridge against classism and a bridge against racism. And after he told me that, I said, well, I'm not in favor of tearing it down no more. Because that made it a symbolic, historical reason for having built this bridge the way it is now in the first place. So I'm here just to say that Cheryl Scully, I mean the mayor, I think met with people, Councilman Shaw met with people, but I don't think, and correct me if I'm wrong, I don't think the city manager's ever been over here and met with anybody.
No.
Well, she needs to get off her high horse and come down here and meet with people and see what the people want as opposed to what she wants.
Amen.
If you can't see this bridge because they're talking about going it way high up because he's more interested in selling beer to whatever drunks come out of there over to his place, then that's not fair as far as this community goes. And then what Nettie Hinton explained of how it was developed as a result of those people donating the bridge and doing all that, and then to completely go against what those people stood for. Now, I am just totally disgusted with the city manager, and so she needs to get off her high horse and listen to what the people say as opposed to what she wants to do.
Amen,
and that needs to happen. That needs to happen now and not later. So I'm totally in favor of preserving the integrity of this bridge, in favor of preserving the integrity of what the people want and not what the city manager wants. And so I will be glad to lend my voice to this effort to preserve the integrity of the symbolic reasons for this bridge having been renovated in the first place. Thank you.
Thank you, Mario Salas.
So I just want to do some correct the record stuff. I don't know if everyone here has read the Rivard Report story that was written about the deal that was made. But the HDRC meetings that I was at definitely featured more than just outsiders of the community. I heard residents of the community speak about their love of the bridge. If you would have read the framing of the story, that's not the opinion you would have gotten. Mitch Mayer would like to frame this as an outsider thing. I think the bridge belongs to the city. I hear a lot of conversations about the residents in District 2, and I think the conversations around gentrification are important ones. But it's also important to remember that this is a city landmark. This is a world historic landmark. This belongs to all of us. And so a framing that, relies on, were there more bodies in favor than more bodies against is just a falsehood. And it's one that serves Mitch Mayer's agenda. So be careful when you read the stories that get printed about this bridge, because from the basic first premise, there's a lot of falsehood. This is some truth right here that we're seeing in front of us. The community members coming out to support saving the bridge. When you read those news stories, remember this image. Remember the image tonight. And don't let the news story mislead you. I stood at those meetings. A lot of people used the opportunity to tell stories. The stories, moved me and moved everyone there. Even though the board said it wasn't germane to their authority, I think the space being hijacked as it was by us to use it that way was an influential move, and I think it needed to be done because there really is no other space for us to do that. There weren't any public meetings where we could discuss these things fairly, and so we need to take these opportunities like spaces like HDRC to do that. And if you would have been there, you would have seen 40 or 60 people for and very few against. And the new residents, they say, we need more eyes on the bridge. This is why we're talking about expanding the conversation to gentrification. Because we know things like more eyes on the bridge mean, dog whistles. We know it means, we're afraid of the vagrants, we're afraid of our neighbors. They don't see public activity as public activity. They see it as, latent crime or vandalism. I don't know if this looks like vandalism to you. This looks to me like a community meeting on a beautiful night. This is the kind of stuff that they're very hostile towards. So what we're arguing about is just a mentality about how to think about the world. And bridges like this and spaces like this where people can gather is one vision. And then a vision where, a brewery with some new residents and a condo with some new residents, where the neighborhood totally changes is another. I think we should care about history, and I think we should care about community. So that's why I'm standing out here speaking with all of you, and I thank you for listening, and I thank you for coming.
Yeah.
Good evening, everyone. Selena Santibanez. I am actually the one that lives over the bridge and over the railroad tracks. So I still live in a neighborhood, Harvard Place, East Lawn, next to the AT&T Center, where our property value is decreasing, and where on the other side of New Braunfels, property is at the highest in all of the city. So it bleeds into gentrification, and it is right here. It is right at our doorsteps, and this is it. This is really the sign of what's to come. I am telling everybody, we are going to witness the largest displacement of people since the building of the Alamo Dome. And once again, let me state that the largest displacement of people since the building of the Alamo Dome. I live in a neighborhood. Why people can't come out here on an evening that's so beautiful as this is because they have to work 60, 80 hours. They have to take the bus to pick up their kids and drop them off at work. That's why. It's not because they don't care. It's not because they don't want to be here. They just don't have that privilege that we all have being here ourselves. So by us fighting, by us standing here, it is representing all of our brown and black communities that are unable to be present here today. This is exactly what they want. They have pinned the African American and Mexican American communities against each other for decades. This is just a sign of what is to come. The fact that the city blatantly ignores the call for the community, the outrage, the disgust. You look at a councilman who really is just there to put a notch on his belt. I will be the first one to say it. He's known me since I was a teenager at Ella Austin. This is merely just for himself. Why did he represent Seymour? Because it was an entire circle that brought him here. This was a strategic placement. It wasn't in the support of the community or to represent that community. This was here to represent himself, as all of these private individuals do. This is public land. With the fact that in the days African Americans, this was the only way they could access the east side. Am I correct, Nettie? Right. That this is the only bridge, as rickety as it was, that they could cross and come into the city. It is not that they don't care. It is not that we don't care. It is the fact that our city leaders and officials are ignoring us, and we should be concerned about that. Thank you very much.
Yeah. Bravo! Bravo!
There's a couple of things left too. So we went through this public process whenever we talked to District 2, and we're looking at people that we needed to really start connecting with to make sure that these things happened. Will Cruz Shaw was saying that the public was never involved in this process, and or that the public was involved in this process, but very much from the very beginning, from whenever it was introduced to Dignity Hill Neighborhood Association, and that vote happened, there wasn't really much of a public process that happened there. That's what opened up the doors in the first place, and then we had to chase the problem this whole time. And whenever we even started getting involved in having interactions where they were involved with the community process, it still shows that even in HDRC, where we had 20 people show up the first time, 50 people show up the second time, the situation is growing. This is the #1 spot for Instagram photos. It's the #1 spot on OHP's viewshed agenda and priority list. It's in the middle of the lawsuit. There's all these things that are showing that this is obviously something that the community has demanded. To make a decision like this is going against all that, and it breaks the whole public trust system. So we need to keep in mind that this doesn't break what we do. We still need to keep being out here. We still need to be present like today. And we still need to participate in the same way. So thank you all for coming out. We still have some time. If anybody else wants to add some more things, can come forward.
Yeah, and before we close up, I know that you did mention that some of the media got it wrong, but I do want to at least do a shout out to Nowcast, because Nowcast has been at all the meetings and has taped all our conversations and has been witness to what the community has said. So thank you for being there. It's good to also have a historic preservationist here from the Express News, and not just the business section, because the business section tends to take care of its own. So thank you as well. And thank you to all the media who came out. The Current did a great story back in December, and so we did reach out to them today and got a new writer. So thank you very much. And Channel 5, Channel 12 was here. Obviously, the media even knows something dirty went on at City Hall, and so they're wanting to hold the city accountable. So thank you for giving light. That's why today we're giving light. We're trying to honor the work of all of us. There's 16,000 people online, or just under 16,000 people online that have signed a petition. Another 3,000 or 4,000 handwritten petitions. So more people than the 40 that they say are from the Dignity Neighborhood Association that are in favor of this development. 40 versus 18,000, I think there's a major difference in size numbers. And we know that there are many more. So thank you for being here. Again, is there anybody else from community that wants to say something?
I've been coming across some epiphanies lately. Something to kind of quail the division, you know, because this is the most segregated city, right? Is it the #1 segregated city in America? Because I was reading like a top 16 list. But really, it's kind of like the history is lost. I like to tell it from Napoleon, you know, the birth of Western imperialism. I've told it to the Smoothie Girls by the Sack. I told it to my family, who I'm also realizing was pretty much fed hate by my grandpa a lot, you know, and turned Mexicans against blacks and whatnot. But pretty much you got to run it up to the birth of the drug war. 2021 is the 50th anniversary of the drug war. 5 decades in of nothing but distraction. You know, anything that you could possibly divide, you know. So I tell my nieces the story, just so you're not in the now making a conclusion of what you see, because then you're just spinning, you know. It's best to come from under, so all the relativity is there, you know. It's not that hard. It's just key points, you know. When they shot Martin Luther King, it wasn't for women's rights, it wasn't for, you know, black rights, voting rights. It was when he started talking about socio-economic equality, you know. And then Nixon started the drug war, and then in the 80s, Reaganomics, 90s, they put crack on the street. So now you got to worry about a drug war goon attacking you in the parking lot. Fear, which I'm realizing is just kind of an illusion. They just want you to, it's kind of just so you never speak up, you know? You never unite, and nothing will happen. So, yes, that's all I wanted to say. I continue to tell stories wherever that I find, you know. When conversations get stale, you know, tell the story.
Okay. So we're done. Yes. Muchas gracias. And if you're not on a mailing list, a phone list, a text list, please sign on, because we're not going to stop. This is not going to be developed for private gain and greed. This is all about greed. They told us, they sold the city to give this land away because the Alamo Beer Company was going to be the economic generator that was going to bring the community here. Look at Alamo Brewery right now. There's no one there. And they have been struggling for all these years to try to get people to go and buy their beer and hang out there. So that, since it's been so unsuccessful, this is why they need to build these apartments. Again, market rate, they've gotten $1.2 million for that C-CHIP funds. They've gotten $449,000 in tax deferment. They got a $50,000 grant. They got a $295,000 grant. It's been over $2 million that the city has been given between Eugene Seymour and Mitch Myers. And what does the community get in return? So keep holding city council accountable. Call the mayor, call your city councilman, call all city councilmen and women and tell them they did wrong. Shame on them for being quiet. Shame on the mayor, shame on the council for being negligent on this. Gracias.
Cheryl Scully even lives in a condominium that Mitch Meyer built.
And thanks everybody for helping come here. If those of you who are still around can help us pick up the stuff, hang out. People said it was kind of windy. It's always nice and breezy on this bridge. Uh-oh, Amy's here.
I just want to say, I've been talking to people as they go by, really urging them to call a council person, call the mayor. So a guy who's visiting from Orlando is about to call the mayor. So please, 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 please call the representatives, call the council members, get everybody you know to call them. It will really make a difference. 10 people calling, and they begin to pay attention, and we need to flood them with calls. Thank you. And yeah, say the community's angry, the community's been robbed of this land, and we want it back.
Well done, Gina. Yeah. I didn't know about that.